Officer Daniel Miller always believed the night shift belonged to him. The empty roads, the quiet intersections, the hum of streetlights, he treated them like his personal kingdom. And on this particular night, with the moon hanging low and the town half asleep, he felt that familiar itch for control. The kind of control that came from reminding people who held the badge. It was 2:17 a.m. when he spotted the lone sedan rolling down Birchwood Avenue. No swerving, no speeding, no violation, just a car heading home. But Miller didn't need a reason, he only needed a target. He flicked on his lights. Inside the sedan, Sarah Hale, still in her pale blue nursing scrubs, exhaled slowly. She had just finished a 14-hour shift in the trauma unit. Her feet ached, her eyes burned, her mind was foggy with exhaustion, but she pulled over calmly, hands already resting on the steering wheel. Miller strutted toward the car with the swagger of someone who believed the world owed him obedience. His flashlight beam cut across her face. "License and registration," he barked. Sarah handed them over without a word. He hated that. The silence. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" he demanded. She met his eyes. "No, officer." Her tone was neutral, not defiant, not submissive, just quiet. Miller's jaw tightened. "You drifted over the line back there." She hadn't, and he knew she hadn't. But she didn't argue, she simply waited. That irritated him even more. "Step out of the vehicle." Sarah blinked. "May I ask why?" "You're resisting instructions," he snapped. "Step out, now." She opened the door, moving slowly, deliberately. Her scrubs rustled in the cool night air. She stood beside the car, hands visible, posture calm. Miller circled her like a predator searching for a reason to pounce. "Where are you coming from?" "Work." "At this hour?" "I'm a nurse." He scoffed. "Yeah? And I'm the president." Still, she didn't react. No anger, no fear, just silence. That silence felt like disrespect. "Turn around," he ordered. She didn't move. "Officer, I'd like to call—" "Turn around," he shouted, grabbing her arm. She didn't resist. She simply repeated, "I need my phone." "For what?" "To make a legal notification." Her voice was steady, controlled, almost rehearsed. Miller's irritation snapped into anger. "You're under arrest for obstruction." He slapped the cuffs on her wrists, tighter than necessary. She winced but didn't speak. He shoved her toward the cruiser, muttering under his breath. "Smart nurses think they're lawyers now." His Bodycam captured every word, and Sarah knew it. As he pushed her into the back seat, she finally spoke. "My phone. I need to make one call." "You can call whoever you want after booking," he said, slamming the door, but she already had. Her smartwatch, still connected, had recorded everything and uploaded it to a secure cloud server, and triggered a preset emergency contact. Miller had no idea. He drove to the precinct with a smug grin, rehearsing the story he'd tell his colleagues. Another lesson taught, another civilian reminded of his authority. Inside the station, he strutted through the doors with Sarah in tow. A few officers glanced up, bored, until Miller announced, "Got a real piece of work tonight. Thought she could outsmart me." He laughed. No one else did. The desk sergeant, a grizzled veteran named Harris, reached for the booking sheet. He scanned the name, then froze, his face drained of color. "Hale?" he whispered. Miller frowned. "Yeah. Why?" Harris swallowed hard. "What's her first name?" "Sarah." Harris stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. "Miller, what exactly did you arrest her for?" "Obstruction, non-compliance, attitude." Harris stared at him like he'd just confessed to a felony. "Did she threaten you? Was she violent?" "No." "Did she refuse lawful commands?" "She hesitated." "Hesitated," Harris repeated, voice hollow. "Miller, please tell me you didn't put hands on her." Miller scoffed. "Of course I did. She was being difficult." Harris closed his eyes. "Oh, God." "What?" Miller snapped. "What's the big deal?" Harris didn't answer. He just pointed toward the entrance. The precinct doors swung open. A man stepped inside, tall, composed, wearing a dark suit that seemed to absorb the fluorescent light. His expression was carved from stone. Behind him walked two attorneys and a department investigator. Every officer in the room stiffened. Chief Raymond Hale, head of internal affairs, the man who investigated misconduct, corruption, and abuse of power, the man who could end careers with a single signature. He didn't look at Miller, he didn't look at the other officers. He walked straight to Sarah. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "I'm okay, Dad." Miller felt the floor drop out from under him. "Dad?" Chief Hale turned, slowly, toward Miller. His eyes were cold enough to freeze bone. "Officer Miller," he said, voice calm but lethal, "you arrested my daughter." Miller's mouth went dry. "Sir, I didn't know." "That's the problem," Hale interrupted. "You didn't know. You didn't check. You didn't follow procedure. You didn't exercise judgment. You didn't uphold the law. You abused it." The room was silent. Hale nodded to the investigator. "Badge." The investigator stepped forward. "Officer Miller," he said, "you are hereby relieved of duty pending a full investigation." Miller stumbled backward. "Wait, you can't, I didn't—" Hale raised a hand. "Your Bodycam footage has already been reviewed. Your behavior tonight was not an isolated incident. It was a pattern." Miller's heart hammered. "Sir, please." "You arrested a nurse driving home from work," Hale said. "You escalated without cause. You used force without justification. You mocked her profession. You ignored her legal rights. And you did all of it while wearing a badge that demands integrity." He stepped closer. "And you did it to my daughter." Miller felt the weight of the room pressing down on him. Every officer watched, silent, knowing this was the kind of moment that ended careers. Hale turned to Sarah. "Let's go." She nodded, rubbing her wrists where the cuffs had been. Hale placed a protective hand on her shoulder as they walked toward the exit. Just before leaving, Hale looked back at Miller. "Justice doesn't shout," he said. "It doesn't threaten, it doesn't abuse, it simply arrives." The doors closed behind him. Miller stood frozen, badge removed, future collapsing. The investigation began immediately. Every complaint ever filed against him, every questionable stop, every excessive escalation, every moment of arrogance caught on camera. Sarah's silent nurse strategy, her calm demeanor, her refusal to be baited, her knowledge of legal procedure had trapped him in his own misconduct. She hadn't needed to fight, she hadn't needed to argue, she simply let him reveal himself, and the law recorded everything. Within days, Miller's suspension became termination. Within weeks, his certification was revoked. Within months, he faced civil litigation. The quiet nurse he mocked had dismantled his entire career without raising her voice. Because true power doesn't need volume, it needs truth, and truth had been on her side from the moment he turned on his lights.
In the weeks that
Followed, Miller watched his world shrink. The badge he once flashed like a weapon was gone. The authority he abused evaporated, and the silence he once mocked became the silence that surrounded him. No partners, no patrols, no late-night swagger, just consequences. Sarah returned to her work at the hospital, treating patients with the same calm strength she had shown that night. She never gloated, she never celebrated, she simply moved forward, knowing justice had spoken for her. Chief Hale continued his mission, not as a father seeking revenge, but as a guardian of the law determined to ensure no officer ever used their badge as a shield for ego again. And Officer Miller, he became a cautionary tale whispered in training rooms, a reminder that the uniform amplifies character. It never hides it. Because in the end, the quiet nurse didn't need power. She didn't need influence. She didn't need to raise her voice. She only needed the truth, and the truth was enough to dismantle a man who thought he was untouchable. This case, like so many others, proves one thing: the strongest justice is often the quietest. And if you want more real-world stories where arrogance meets consequence, where hidden identities flip entire investigations upside down, and where silence becomes the loudest weapon in the room, you're watching Undercover Crime Files, where the truth always comes out.